It can be confusing if you let it, but I want to be a communicator tonight and not a teacher. Let me tell you why. A teacher takes a simple subject and makes it confusing, and they're not happy if you're not confused. All right? A communicator takes a hard subject and makes it simple. That's what I want to do for us tonight. Make it simple so we can grow from it. And, you know, anytime I minister, I like to ask the greatest theological question ever asked. So what? What can we do with it tomorrow? How will it affect me on my job or in the marketplace? Okay, so some of this, you might leave here tonight going, so what? And it means nothing, okay? Because we're talking some ancient history here, but I hope you can see some things a little bit differently. So tonight I'm going to start with the same text we started with last week for the guys in the back to do such an awesome job. And that'd be Isaiah 44, verse 28. Isaiah 44 and 28. It says, who says of Cyrus, he is my shepherd, and he shall perform all my pleasures, saying to Jerusalem, you shall be built, and to the temple your foundation shall be laid. 45 verse 1 says, thus saith the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have held, to subdue nations before him and loose the armor of kings, to open before him the double doors so that the gates will not be shut. I'm going to keep going a little bit further tonight, guys. It says, I will go before you. Now he's talking, this is Jeremiah prophesying, but he's saying, thus saith the Lord to Cyrus. Now you got to understand, Jeremiah's prophesying this 150 years before Cyrus was ever born. It's a prophecy. All right, so let's just keep going a little bit. It says, I'll go before you, make the crooked places straight. I'll break in pieces the gates of bronze and cut the bars of iron. I'll give you the treasures of darkness and hidden riches of secret places, that you may know that I, the Lord, who calls you by your name, am the God of Israel. For of Jacob my servant's sake and Israel my elect, I have even called you by your name. I have named you, though you have not known me. For I am the Lord, there is no other, there is no God beside me. I will gird you, though you have not known me, that they may know from the rising of the sun to its setting that there is none besides me. I am the Lord, and there's no other. See, God is using Jeremiah to prophesy about someone who isn't here yet and won't be for another 150 years. But he's laying it out for him of what's going to happen. Now, if you ever felt like, well, God can't use me, I'm too bad, you're wrong. This guy didn't even know God. He wasn't even here yet. But Jeremiah's prophesying how he's going to use him. And the prophecy plainly said, you don't know me, but I'm going to call you by your name. So you can be used of God if you want to be. Okay? So that's the whole point. Is God uses whom he chooses. He uses whom he chooses. If he chooses to use you, let him. This guy didn't know God. All right? Now go back also to Ezra, if you will, fellas. Ezra chapter 1. Just a little bit in chapter 1. Now, in the first year of Cyrus, that's who we're talking about, the king of Persia. And the reason it can be a little bit confusing is obviously the Bible isn't written chronologically. It's not in an order that we can follow. So it just jumps around, okay? But it's still in there just the same. In the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah the prophet might be fulfilled. See, we just read that. The Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, so that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and also put it in writing, saying, thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, all the kingdoms of the earth, the Lord God of heaven has given me. See, he's acknowledging what God did for him, even though he didn't know God. And he has commanded me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Who is among you of all his people? May his God be with him, and let him go to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and build the house of the Lord, God of Israel. He is God, which is in Jerusalem. Okay, so I'm not going to read it all. We read that last week. But you see, the idea here is that Cyrus knows what's going on. I do want you to go with me over to chapter 2 for just a little bit here. Verse 1. Ezra, chapter 2, verse 1. Now, these are the people, because here in chapter 1, if you keep reading it, he's telling the Israelites, he's letting them go back. And when they go, take everything that was captured and taken to Babylon. I'm giving it all back to you, right? You with me? He's giving them everything to go back, all of the gold and the silver and the platters and all of that stuff. But I want you to pick up on something here. Who went back? It said, now these are the people of the province who came back from the captivity of those who had been carried away, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away to Babylon, and who returned to Jerusalem and to Judah, everyone to his own city. Cyrus is letting them go because Nebuchadnezzar had taken them captive, and he took everything out of the temple, put it in his temple, right? Cyrus is letting them all go back to build the temple of God and the house of God in Judah. Take all this with you. Verse 2 says, those who came with Zerubbabel were Jeshua, Nehemiah, Seraiah, Reliah, Mordecai, Bilshan, Mizpar, Bagvia. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. Did you catch a name in there? Mordecai. Mordecai. Where do we read about Mordecai? Esther. Okay, fellas, if you would go with me to the book of Esther. Now, I'm not going to read the whole book of Esther to you tonight, I promise. I wouldn't make you sit through that, okay? I'm not going to do that to you. I can read really fast, but some of these names in here, I get my tongue wrapped around my eye teeth, and I can't see what I'm saying. All right. So they came in Esther. I said, now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, that was the Ahasuerus who reigned over 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia. Okay, I tell you what, brother, if you could put up there that picture of the map instead of the text would be great. Because we've got to get an idea what we're talking about here. Okay, all those provinces, what is now Iran, it's nuts how big the place was. So in those days, when King Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan, the citadel, that's be down toward the southern part down there, that in the third year of his reign, he made a feast for all his officials and servants, the powers of Persia and Media, the nobles, the princes of the provinces being before him. When he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the splendor of his excellence, majesty for many days, 180 days in all. Can you imagine? 180 days of party. He just, 180 days. That's 6 months. Half a year. And when these days were completed, he made a feast lasting 7 days for all the people who were present in Shushan, the citadel, from great to small, in the court and of the garden of the king's palace. So he's doing all of these things. Now, you've got to understand, this is, in Esther, this is right in the time of Cyrus and Ahasuerus reigning as the king in Persia, which was modern-day Iran. And the story goes that, they're doing this party, and they're honoring the king, and they're doing all these things. And the king called the queen, Vashti, and she didn't want to come. She didn't want to come. Nope, not coming. Well, he got irate about that. He's the king. And the queen's not coming. Well, what's up with that? So the bottom line is he got angry with her, and all of his entourage around him, they decided that, he said, the king said to the wise men who understood the times, for it was the king's mandatory law who knew the law, and closest to him, he said, what are we going to do with Vashti according to the law, because she didn't obey my command? So the word was put out, basically they're going to replace the queen, Okay, I'm going to give you the high points of the book of Esther here. Okay, and they sent out word they're going to bring all of the beautiful ladies in and put them in training and beautification processes and, the oils and the spices and just make them all beautiful. All right. And then the king was going to get to choose one to be the queen. In the midst of all of this, there's a fella in there named Haman, which we have heard the story of. And he was honored and, a big shot. I'm put in today's vernacular. He was, in the upper echelon, kind of a bit uppity here. And everybody was supposed to, acknowledge him, give him a bow, whatever, okay? Just kind of say, yeah, okay, he's the top dog. But this fellow named Mordecai wouldn't do that. He was like, no. He was honoring God, but I'm not going to do this. Nope. Well, word got out to Haman that Mordecai was refusing to honor him in the capacity that he was had risen to be honored. So Haman, basically, to cut to the chase here, got word that Mordecai is Jewish. Well, because Mordecai refused to honor Haman in such a fashion that he wanted to be honored, he got angry, so he gets the king to do an edict, an order, and sent it out to all the 127, I believe it was, provinces, to the other leaders of these provinces, that on a certain day, that they had authority to gather up and slaughter, basically, all of the Jews. We're going to kill them all. Now, imagine, what is up there as Iran? It was Persia back then. That's what it was called. It looks like they're trying to eradicate the Jewish nation already, and we're going to just kill them all. Send out all the word to the different provinces, to the different languages. Every language that was there had it in their language so they could understand. It was posted. It was made public that on this day we're coming and we're going to destroy all the Jews. Men, women, children, it didn't matter. Spare none of them. Can you imagine? Think about what's happening today. Is it not still that same battle going on? They're trying to destroy the Jews. Think about that. A lot happening. Now, you see how far it is from Iran to Israel? Way over there in that gray area, dark gray, says Cyprus right in there. You got Israel's that little red dot. It's about this big. It's not a very big place at all. It's not the land so much as the people they want to destroy. Anyway, all the way back that far in time. So the edict was sent to do this. Well, in the process of all of this, you got the beautiful ladies being groomed and being, soaked in oil, whatever they did to them. I don't know, man. Beautification process. It didn't work on me, so I don't worry about it. All right. It's one of those things. But they were going through that process. And it come time for these ladies to be brought out and presented to the king. And Esther's name wasn't always Esther, but we don't have to get into that tonight. It was changed. Okay, Mordecai. She was with Mordecai, adopted family, so to speak, of a relative. And she went before the king, and she was selected to be queen. She also got word that the Jews, this edict had been sent out, that the Jews were going to be destroyed. And Mordecai is talking to her and tells her, you need to do something about this because we're all going to die. You following? You tracking with me so far? Okay. We're going to all die. And now the rule was, if you went into the court of where the king was, and he didn't hold out the scepter to you and invite you in, they killed you. You just couldn't walk into the king's presence without being invited. Aren't you glad that today, because of what Jesus did for us, it said we can enter boldly and ask for whatever we want, whatever we need. He's there. So Esther, obviously, is like Mordecai. I mean, I know you're my uncle and all of that, but what you're asking me to do here. So back in the story a little bit, there had been an uprising, and the eunuchs had something happen that they didn't like, so they were plotting against the king. Mordecai got wind of it, and he reported it. So one day the king is not feeling well, so he has his people bring him, okay, just bring me something here. So they bring him the Chronicles and start laying it out for him. And at the end of it, they're telling him, look, this is what happened. There was this plot against you, and it was put down, it was squelched. And he said, yeah, I remember that. Okay, what? He said, did we ever do anything for the person who made us aware of that? No, we never did. Okay, well, we need to do something for that person. Well, all of a sudden, because Haman is so, high and mighty, he walks in, and the king recognized him and invited him in, and he's asking Haman, what should we do for the person who's, he's done this, and he's done this, and he's done this, and he's done this. Now, Haman is so conceited and stuck on himself, he's thinking he's talking about me, so I'm going to lay it out what I would like. I'm going to get this reward is going to be for me. So he lays it out. Let him ride on a royal steed and wear a robe that the king has worn before, and all these nice things that he would want to do. And let's parade him around town and let everybody salute him and recognize that this is that special guy. And the king said, "That's great. Go get Mordecai and do that for him." And don't you know, he was he just busted, like, what? Wait. I thought you were talking about me. No, it's just to do Mordecai. So now here's this guy, so arrogant and bold and obnoxious, really, and had already had an edict signed that was going to have all the Jews killed. And now he's got to parade this Jew around on a royal steed, wearing a royal robe that the king had worn. You get the idea? So let's go on. And the story goes, he did it because the king told him to. But he went home and he's complaining about all of this. So they talked him into, they being his family, building gallows, and then just hang this guy on the gallows. Well, Mordecai is communicating with Esther. And he told her, they're going to destroy us if you don't speak up, basically, is what he said. And her comment back to him was, so be it. If I die, I die. She was dedicated to her people. So she went into the court. The king invited her in. So she invited the king and Haman to a banquet. Sure. They show up at the banquet. While they're at the banquet, she said, I want to invite you back tomorrow, and we're going to do this tomorrow. Okay. So Haman goes home, and he's telling all of his family, I was invited to a party at the queen's place, me and the king alone, and guess what? I'm going back tomorrow. We're going to do it again tomorrow. And it's just the king and me. The next day, Esther puts on the party. The king and Haman show up. And the bottom line is, through all of this, she reveals to the king that she's Jew and that Haman's trying to kill her and all of her people. And the king was angry, and he left the room. And then he came back in. And then he ordered that Haman be hanged on the very gallows that he made for Mordecai. Well, that in itself is bad enough. But here's the deal. With the edict that was sent out, that was put out, that we're going to kill all the Jews, it's by the laws that they lived by at that time, that edict could not be reversed. The laws of the Medes and the Persians, you couldn't change that once it was established. So even though Haman is now dead, the edict is still active. So what are we going to do about it? The only way to eliminate that one that was out, and on this date, this is going to happen, we have to send another one. So the king told Esther and Mordecai to write a different edict, to send that out to all the provinces, everywhere else, in the language that could be understood. Put it out there and let it happen. Put it out there. This is going to happen. Well, here, the bottom line of this story is that they did that, but they let these people know in that edict that they sent out that as the Jew, you have a right to defend yourself based on this edict. You don't have to sit there and let them slaughter you. You can fight back. It's okay because this overrides or supersedes the first one that you got. So you don't have to be destroyed. You can fight back. That's the word that went out. But guess what? They didn't get destroyed. Okay? So all the way back, even in history, Persia/Iran has been trying to destroy the Jewish people. They had, look how big a territory is there. Now I realize that's modern day Iran, but it's pretty close representation. Actually, it's smaller than what it used to be, because they used to also include Iraq, which was, I can't think of the name of it now. Anyway, it was a different place, okay? And you got Baghdad and Iraq and Syria. All of that was inclusive. Okay, Mesopotamia is what I was trying to say. Okay, so all of that was even bigger then. But Israel is just this small little state. Maybe, I don't think it's even as big as New Jersey. All of that area. So was it the land they want? Or was it the people they're trying to eradicate? Let me bring it home a little bit. If you today profess to be a Christian, how many in here profess to be a Christian? That's all of us. We're professing to be, we're Christ-like, we're Christians. We call ourselves Christians. You're in danger of being eradicated. Because there's folks running around on the street today that don't like the fact that you're a Christian. They don't like that. And they'd rather you not be here. Because see, we're in a world that the church didn't realize that as the body of Christ, the government's on our shoulders. And we're supposed to be taking care of things. But you're in danger. Now, well, I'm not trying to instill fear in you. We don't need to live by fear, walk by fear. God hasn't given us a spirit of fear, but a power and a love and of a sound mind, okay? So we don't have to be afraid. We do need to be wise. But the word says that we're to make disciples and spread the good news. Put it out there. Because there's people today, even now, not only do they want to wipe out the Jewish civilization, they want to wipe out any nationality that calls himself a Christian. They don't care where you come from. They just don't like you. Especially if you're a white male. They don't like you, Mike. He don't care. I'm with him. I don't care either, right? It is what it is. See, we don't have to live in fear. But the point is, even that far back, we're talking way yonder, all right? Jeremiah prophesied it. You'll find it again in Ezra and Daniel, and get some ideas of what's happening here. So it's I don't know. It's bad. It's awful, actually, that they can be that way, but they are. So right there, and we learned about these Bible characters, but you can see what's happening with all of them in Isaiah and in Ezra. Cyrus being called out, prophesied about 150 years before he was even born. All right. So, and the part of the whole deal here is that even that far back, was under Cyrus, Persia wasn't an enemy. They were actually a deliverer nation. Let them all go back to Jerusalem. Okay, so God used a Gentile empire to restore Israel. So God can use a pagan nation as an instrument of redemption. See, God can turn the hearts of a king. He can turn them, okay? So in the book of Daniel, Persia is part of a sequence of world empires, as he prophesied. You got Daniel chapter 2, there's a statue vision. In Daniel 7, there's the 4 beasts. And then Daniel 8, the ram with 2 horns. So the way you can look at this, you got Babylon, Medo, Persia, Greece, and Rome. That's just flowing through there. So the inferior to Babylon, but still it's in a global scope. So Persia represents a transition phase from judgment in Babylon to restoration, a return from exile. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Persia was both a political empire and a prophetic hinge point in redemptive history. Get that? Both political empire and a prophetic hinge point in redemptive history. You got Persia / Elam in judgment prophecy in Jeremiah. So you got Jeremiah, I'm not going to read all the scriptures, guys, but you got Jeremiah 49, 34 to 39, that's judgment against Elam, which is a region there in modern Iran. Says, I will break the bow of Elam as a military power. Okay, so if you study Old Testament history at all, and some of the prophecies that are there, you wonder how that could ever be. But when you move that up to modern times and the weaponry, the things that Iran had at their disposal, it's not far-fetched or a big stretch of your imagination to know that Iran could attack Israel. It could do it. Could have done it. Put it that way. Recent events of the past 6 weeks, we're being told anyway that threat has pretty much been eliminated. We can pray that it has. That because the regime that was there, the Islamic regime that took over in 1979, has not been a good one. But you know, it was that area was known as Persia up until 1935, I think, somewhere in that neighborhood. We talked about that last week. So that's when it changed. And then in 79, this radical Islam group took over, all right? And as a Christian, I know I've heard it, and I've heard it, okay? That all Islam isn't bad. All Islam isn't radical. You get the idea? But if they go by the Quran, you're an infidel. And they want to destroy you. They don't want to convert you to Islam. They want to destroy you. As Christians, what are we doing? Supposed to be doing? Making disciples of all nations. It doesn't matter. Share the gospel. Share Jesus Christ and Him crucified and raised from the dead. Make disciples. They're trying to destroy people. I'm just saying. Okay. Restoration is promised through all of this. He said, I will restore the fortune of Elam in days to come. So there's just so much in all of this. And in Ezekiel 38 and 39, there's more scriptures and more scriptures about Persia and Cush and Put and all of the different places. So the thing is, and you hear about Gog and Magog and end times and the coming, Armageddon and the end of the world and the apocalypse and all of that. Okay, I get it. I believe we're in the end times. Is Jesus coming tomorrow? No. Is Jesus coming tomorrow? Yes. We don't know. We don't know. Okay, we don't know. Is he coming? Yes, definitely. Without question, without equivocation, he's coming back. But none of us know when. Our job is just to be ready. Have oil in our lamps and extra oil for our lamps. Okay? So when he comes, he doesn't catch us sleeping or unaware. But yes, he's coming. I believe he's coming. He said when this gospel is preached in all nations, this gospel of the kingdom, then he'll come back. So he's coming, yes. But none of us know when. And the sad thing about all of this is that the situation in Iran is bad. And right now, it seems that it has been squelched for a while, but it's not over forever. That's the tough part. It's not over forever. Because you see, all of this going on, it's not just one country. I mean, when we get to the end times, it's a coalition of nations that are grouping together. Persia won't be the leader necessarily, but it'll be part of a coalition that's still trying to do the same thing, and that's destroy the Jews. And they're going to do everything they can to do that. Okay, so as Persia or modern Iran is seen as a part of a future military alliance against Israel. Symbolically, it represents a hostile nation aligned against God's people. It could reflect patterns repeated across history. So what's consistent? Persia is aligned with opposition forces in a climactic conflict. It's lining up. Right now, today, we don't know what's going on over there. I mean, the news today is so all over the place. It's like, who do you listen to? Who do you believe? Where do you get your information? So we just have to be discerning, know the scripture, and pray for discernment. Who's telling the truth and who's not? It's the source where it's coming from. Where is it coming from? All right. I don't listen to mainstream media probably any more than any of you do. All right, because it's all most of the time propaganda. I mean, when you consider that all of the news networks have had their security clearances revoked and they can't get the accurate information, they're making it up. They're just making it up. They make up a story. It's not the story, it's a story. There's a difference in the story and a story. Okay, so we have to be careful what we're getting there, okay? Both Persia as a helper and an opponent. So it happens. So let's see if I can break this down for you a little bit. In Scripture, the role it was a deliverer. Cyprus was freeing Israel. As protector, support for the temple and rebuilding. Participant in judgments in Jeremiah 49. End times opponent in Ezekiel 38. Persia/Iran is not locked into a single identity. It reflects a broader biblical theme. Nations shift roles depending on how they align with God's purposes. It's his purpose. He said he works all things for good, together for good, for those that are called according to his purpose. Okay? So the big picture here is that God controls nations, even global empires serve divine purposes. Persia shows God working outside of Israel. Even nations under judgment are not beyond redemption. And in Ezekiel, what matters is not identity, but alignment with God's, or alignment against God's covenant people. So Iran today does not equal exactly Persia in prophecy. Did you get that? There's a lot going on, but today's Iran or old ancient Persia does not exactly equal Persia in prophecy, all right? Elam, Media, Persia are distinct but overlapping regions. And so modern Iran is not one-to-one biblical Persia in every context. It had something to do with it. It's there historically. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can put a spin on this tonight for you chronologically, or at least it's not. The chapters are all over the place, okay? So of the timeline, if I can simplify it for you just a little bit in the next few minutes that I have here. Prophecy of Persia before it exists as an empire that you can find in Isaiah. Chapter 13, 21, 41. Okay, it's a bunch of them, but it's in Isaiah. Now, the fall of Babylon and the rise of Persia in 539 BC, 2 Chronicles 36. Cyrus and the return of the Jews is in Ezra 1 through 6. Persian rule in prophetic context, Daniel 5, chapter 5 through chapter 11. So it's a lot of reading in there. The visions that Daniel saw were incredible. I mean, some of the beasts that he was looking at, 10 heads and horns and, looked like dragons and whatever, okay? So that's in chapter Daniel 5 through 11. Later, in Persian administration in Ezra 7. Persian Empire at its peak would be Xerxes and Ahasuerus, and that's in Esther. Additional prophetic mentions of Iran/Persia is in Ezekiel 27 and 28. So some insight, and here's, I'll wind this down. It said Persia appears about 24 plus times across the Old Testament. It is unique among empires because it's prophesied by name before it rises. It becomes a tool of restoration. Cyrus was freeing Israel. And it also appears in the spiritual warfare context in Daniel. And if you remember in Daniel, he was fasting and praying. And it took 21 days to get an answer. Remember that story? Okay. And when the angel came to him, Gabriel, right? He said, your prayer was heard the first day. I've been in a battle and had to call Michael, the archangel. He must be a bad dude, that's all I can say, right? Because he came and cleaned house, right? He said, and I got through because of Michael. And here's the answer to your prayer. But I got to go back. Oh, and by the way, the Prince of Persia is coming. Okay, the battle's not over. So it's a spiritual battle. This whole thing, all of this is a spiritual battle that we're engulfed in. Spiritual warfare going on everywhere you can imagine. Okay, because the enemy is on a rampage like never before. People are being blatantly evil. And the word says, we got a problem when we call evil good and good evil. And that's what's happening today. All around the world, not just here in America, but all over the place. They call this evil is, oh no, that's dubbed as being good. And good is evil. And it says, woe to those who do that. Judgment's coming. Judgment is coming. So we have to be careful. We have to pray. We have to stay up and stay in tune with what's going on. And I'm going to leave you with this cliffhanger. I told you there was an edict sent in order for Haman to be able to destroy the Jews. Okay. Well, it was sent on a certain date at a certain time. And I believe from some of the research that I've done on my own and some that I've received from others, that time frame of the edict was sent before a certain day and time, and it was going to happen here, that what just happened in Iran lines up with that time frame. Before those, you follow me? And if the Lord will let me and help me to be a communicator and not a teacher, so I can make it clear, I'm going to do that next week. We'll probably wind this series down next week. We'll move on to something else for the last Wednesday of the month. But think about that. There was a certain time, because remember I told you, they gave them a warning. This is what's going to happen, and it's going to happen here. Well, what just happened in Iran 6 weeks ago, I fully believe, lines up with that same format of before this is what's going to happen and why. I'm done. God bless you. Appreciate you coming. Hope you got something out of this. And if you're